Sex can make an avoidant man feel deeply close for a moment, but what happens right after can decide everything. This is the part nobody talks about, the part where he suddenly goes quiet, looks away, shifts his body, or feels like he is already halfway out the door. And if you read that moment the wrong way, you can accidentally push him further back when he was actually closer than ever. So if you have ever felt confused by how a man can be warm one minute and distant the next, stay with me, because this is where the real story starts. It is not about saying the perfect words. It is not about asking him what he feels. It is not about forcing a deep talk while the moment is still raw. The one move that helps most in those minutes is much simpler, and most people miss it because it looks too quiet to matter. But it matters more than almost anything. It works because it does not fight his mind. It calms his body. It does not make him explain himself. It lets him feel safe enough to stay. And when an avoidant man feels safe instead of pressured, something changes. He stops bracing. He stops scanning for an exit. He starts softening from the inside. So before you think he is pulling away because he does not care, listen closely, because the minutes after intimacy are often the exact moment when he cares the most and feels the most exposed, and that is why this next part can completely change the energy between you. After intimacy, his body and his mind often move in two different directions. His body may be open, softer, calmer, full of bonding chemicals that create closeness and attachment, but his mind can quickly move into defense. That is the strange tension inside him. One part feels connected. Another part feels alarmed by how connected he feels. This is why he may become quiet right after being tender. This is why he may suddenly need space after a moment that felt deeply warm. It is not always a sign that the connection meant nothing. Many times, it means the connection meant enough to wake up old fear. He may not even understand it himself. He just knows that he feels too visible, too open, too emotionally uncovered, and his system starts trying to protect him before he can think it through. That is why these moments are so misunderstood. A woman may think he is getting cold. He may think, I need a second before I lose myself here. Those are very different stories, but they can happen in the same bed at the same time. And if you do not understand that, you may react to his silence as rejection, when for him it is often regulation. Keep watching, because this one insight can stop you from personalizing behavior that was never truly about your worth. His distance in that moment is often less about how he feels for you and more about how much emotional exposure his system can handle all at once. Think of it like this. He has just stepped into closeness, and closeness feels good, but it also feels risky. His body says, stay here. This feels good. This feels safe. But his inner alarm says, careful. This is where people start expecting more from you. This is where you lose freedom. This is where need, pressure, and emotional demand begin. So even if nothing bad is happening, his nervous system may act as if danger is near. That is the hidden battle. He is not only enjoying the moment, he is also managing the fear that comes with being emotionally reachable. This is why some avoidant men seem different right after sex. They may become still. They may joke to lighten the mood. They may reach for their phone. They may ask for water, turn away, or suddenly talk about something random. These are not always signs of disrespect. Sometimes they are signs of self-protection. If you have ever felt the energy change and wondered what you did wrong, slow down. You may have done nothing wrong at all. You may simply be seeing a nervous system trying to recover balance after intense closeness. And when you see that clearly, you stop chasing. You stop forcing. You stop trying to fix a moment that is not broken. That shift alone changes your energy. It makes you less reactive, more grounded, and far more powerful in the way you hold the moment. And that is important, because your energy right here can either increase his fear or quietly lower it. So what actually helps? Not a big speech, not a serious relationship talk, not asking, what are you thinking right now? Do you feel close to me? Are you okay? Where is this going? Or did that mean something to you? Those questions may feel natural, especially if intimacy makes you want reassurance, but to an avoidant man in this exact window, they can feel like pressure landing too fast on an already open nerve. What helps more is calm, warm, silent presence. Just that. Being there without an agenda. Being near without emotionally grabbing. Letting the moment breathe without trying to control where it goes. This does not mean acting cold. It does not mean punishing silence. It does not mean pretending you do not care. It means your presence says, I am here, I am calm, and I do not need anything from you right this second. That message is powerful. It tells his system that closeness with you does not automatically become a test. It tells him he does not have to perform, explain, or prove. It tells him he can stay in the moment without being cornered by it. And for someone who often expects closeness to come with pressure, that can feel almost shocking in the best way. If this is making sense, stay with me, because the difference between silence that heals and silence that pushes him away is subtle, and that next piece matters more than most people realize. The reason this works is simple but deep. Avoidant men often fear that intimacy will lead to emotional demands they cannot handle in the moment. They expect closeness to become heavy. They expect peace to turn into pressure. So when you stay soft, quiet, and emotionally steady, you interrupt that old pattern. Your calm presence gives his body a new experience. Instead of feeling, now I owe, now I must explain, now I will be pulled into more than I can manage, he feels, I can be here and still breathe. I can be close and still be myself. That is a huge shift. It is the difference between feeling trapped and feeling safe. But here is the hard part. What feels peaceful to him may feel confusing to you. If your own heart wants words after intimacy, silence may feel empty. If you long for reassurance, his quiet may feel sharp. If you are used to love being verbal, his processing style may feel like distance. So the challenge is not only understanding him, it is understanding yourself in that moment too. Because if silence makes you anxious, you may rush to fill it. And if you rush to fill it, you may accidentally create the very pressure that makes him shut down. This is why self-awareness matters so much here. Sometimes the key to helping him stay open is learning how to stay grounded in the few minutes when your own feelings want immediate answers. That is not weakness. That is emotional skill. And it changes everything. This is where body language becomes more important than words. You can say all the right things, but if your body is tense, if your face is searching for reassurance, if your touch feels clingy, if your breathing is tight, his system will still feel the pressure. The body speaks first. It always does. So if you want to help him stay present, start with your own nervous system. Soften your shoulders. Slow your breathing. Let your body rest instead of reaching. Keep touch, gentle, easy, and unforced. Maybe your hand rests lightly on his chest. Maybe your leg brushes his. Maybe you simply lie beside him with relaxed energy. The message is not, come closer now. The message is, closeness here is safe. That is what he needs to feel. Not a performance, not a demand. Safety. And people underestimate how deeply nervous systems talk to each other in vulnerable moments. He can feel when you are calm. He can feel when you are waiting. He can feel when your silence is acceptance and when your silence is loaded. So this is not about acting calm. It is about becoming calm enough that your presence itself lowers the pressure in the room. That is why some women make avoidant men feel safe without saying much at all. Their energy does not chase, it does not crowd, it does not panic. It simply holds the moment without squeezing it. And that kind of presence is far more magnetic than most people understand. Now let's make this practical, because this is where many women accidentally undo the connection. He goes quiet. You start wondering if he regrets it. Then you ask if something is wrong. He says no. You feel the distance anyway, so you ask another question. He gets shorter. You feel hurt. Now the room is full of tension, and both of you are reacting to meanings that were never clearly spoken. This happens all the time. A better move is to resist the urge to chase the silence. Let it exist for a minute. Let him breathe. Let the moment settle. If he sighs, smiles, touches you, makes a small joke, or says something simple, meet it warmly without turning it into an interview. That is how you keep the door open. He does not need a spotlight on his feelings right away. He needs room to find them, and when he senses that he gets to move at his own pace, he is often more willing to lean back in. That is the paradox. The less cornered he feels, the more open he becomes. The more free he feels, the more connection he can choose. This is why autonomy matters so much with avoidant men. If intimacy feels like a trap, he runs. If intimacy feels like a choice, he stays longer. Remember that. It will save you from making a quiet moment heavier than it needs to be. And in a minute, I will show you how to give space without making him feel that you have emotionally disappeared. Because yes, there is a difference between healthy space and cold distance. Healthy space feels warm, even in silence. Cold distance feels like shutdown. Healthy space says, I am here when you are ready. Cold distance says, fine, Do whatever you want. One invites, the other punishes. If you are going to give him room, it has to feel open, not bitter. That means you do not suddenly become icy because he got quiet. You do not pull away to make him chase. You do not use silence as a weapon. You simply stop forcing the moment and let it breathe while staying emotionally present. That might mean resting beside him with ease. It might mean a soft touch, a small smile, a calm face, and nothing more. It might mean getting up slowly, bringing water, then returning with the same steady energy. These little things matter. They tell him that space with you does not equal rejection. They tell him that he can regulate without losing the connection. And that matters because many avoidant men are deeply sensitive to the fear of being engulfed, but they can also feel unsettled if closeness suddenly flips into emotional absence. So the goal is not maximum distance. The goal is breathable closeness, space with warmth, freedom with connection. That is the sweet spot. And when you learn how to create that, you stop making intimacy feel like an all-or-nothing event. It becomes more natural, more human, and much safer for both of you. Then comes the next important part. If he does open up, even a little, do not overwhelm the moment. This is where subtle affirmation matters. If he says something small like, I feel weird after closeness sometimes, or I just need a minute, or even, I like being with you, your response can either build trust or shut him down. The best response is usually simple, warm, and light. Something like, I get that, or thanks for telling me, or I like hearing that. That is enough. You do not need to jump into a deep analysis. You do not need to turn one sentence into a 2-hour conversation. You do not need to squeeze more out of him because you finally got a crack in the wall. Let the crack stay gentle. Let it be enough for now. Avoidant men often fear being judged, managed, or emotionally swallowed when they reveal something vulnerable. So if your response is too intense, even in a positive way, he may retreat again. Not because your warmth is bad, but because the intensity feels like too much too fast. Think of it like this. When a shy person takes one step closer, you do not rush them. You stay calm, you stay kind. You let safety repeat. That repetition matters. Over time, he starts linking openness with relief instead of pressure. He starts feeling that being honest with you does not cost him his freedom, and once that pattern forms, emotional closeness becomes much more possible. At the same time, you have to be honest about your own needs. This is not about training yourself to accept crumbs. It is not about becoming endlessly patient while your heart stays hungry. There is a big difference between creating a safe moment and living in a one-sided relationship. A man needing a little quiet after intimacy is one thing. A man who always withdraws, never reflects, never grows, never reassures, and leaves you doing all the emotional work is another. So while this approach can help a healthy avoidant man feel safer, it cannot fix someone who refuses responsibility for his patterns. That distinction is important. If you skip it, you may spend years trying to become more understanding while ignoring the fact that nothing is changing. Watch his pattern over time. Does he open a little more when he feels safe? Does he show effort? Does he come back toward connection after space? Does he care how his distance affects you? Does he become more honest, more aware, more consistent? Those are good signs. But if every vulnerable moment leads to the same wall, the same confusion, the same emotional disappearing act, then your patience may be feeding a cycle instead of healing one. Stay with me here because this part protects your peace. Understanding an avoidant man should never require abandoning yourself. Real love asks for compassion, yes, but it also asks for truth. There are also common mistakes that look loving on the surface, but backfire fast. One is trying to deepen the moment with too many words too soon. Another is using tears, disappointment, or emotional intensity to pull him closer when he is already overwhelmed. Another is acting extra detached because you think matching his distance will make you look strong. It usually does not. It just creates more confusion. Another mistake is reading every quiet moment as proof that something is wrong. Not every pause is a problem. Not every silence is rejection. Sometimes silence is simply processing. Another mistake is expecting instant emotional performance after physical closeness. Some men bond through conversation. Avoidant men often need time before language catches up with feeling. If you understand that, you stop demanding proof on a timeline that does not fit his wiring. But again, timing matters. Giving him a minute is healthy. Losing your voice for months is not. So use wisdom. Read patterns, not just moments. Ask yourself, am I seeing temporary regulation, or am I watching a permanent wall? Am I creating safety, or am I becoming smaller just to keep the peace? Those questions matter. They keep your empathy strong without letting it turn into self-betrayal. And that balance is where mature love begins. Not in endless giving, not in constant chasing, but in calm clarity that can hold tenderness and truth at the same time. If you want to make this even easier, remember a simple sequence. First, do not panic when the energy shifts. Second, ground your body before you react. Third, keep the atmosphere soft, not heavy. Fourth, let silence exist without rushing to fix it. Fifth, if he offers even a small opening, receive it with warmth, not pressure. Sixth, notice what happens over time, because patterns tell the truth louder than promises. This sequence keeps you from spiraling in the exact moments when your anxiety may want quick answers. And that matters because many relationship problems are not caused by the original moment. They are caused by what each person does next. He feels exposed, so he pulls back. You feel uncertain, so you reach forward harder. Now both of you are protecting yourselves in ways that make the other person feel less safe. That is how the cycle grows. But when one person changes the energy, the cycle can shift. Your grounded presence can interrupt the panic. Your restraint can create breathing room. Your warmth without demand can make intimacy feel lighter, safer, and less threatening. This does not guarantee a perfect outcome, but it gives the moment its best chance. And sometimes that is enough to create a very different kind of closeness than either of you expected. Quiet, steady, real, not dramatic, not forced, just safe enough for something true to happen. So if you are lying there after intimacy and you feel that familiar urge to ask, to define, to secure, to close the gap with words, remember this. The strongest move may be the softest one. Breathe. Stay warm. Stay open. Let your body say what your mouth does not need to say yet. Let him feel that closeness with you is not a trap, not a test, not a demand for immediate emotional performance. Let the moment settle without rushing it into meaning. And if he turns toward you, even a little, meet him gently. That is how trust grows with someone who fears being swallowed by closeness. Not through pressure, but through repeated experiences of peace. Not through perfect lines, but through emotional steadiness. Not through forcing vulnerability, but through making vulnerability feel survivable. And if you learn this, you will stop confusing silence with failure. You will stop taking every pause as proof of rejection. You will begin to see the hidden emotional logic beneath his behavior. That does not mean accepting less than you deserve. It means responding with skill instead of fear. And that skill can change the entire emotional tone of the relationship, because sometimes the one thing that makes an avoidant man open up is not what you say after sex. It is the calm, simple feeling he gets when he realizes he can be close to you and still feel safe inside his own skin.